controversial subjects with the facts can be tense, but we are a science here to make things make sense.
Or the perfect thing to show my pits off if you're watching the video on YouTube.
Oh, yeah. And for everyone who's listening to the whole pod, Casey Musgraves got canceled. So we were celebrating moments ago that we were going to that tonight. We aren't.
So those on YouTube who just came in, we were going to go see Casey Musgraves and we were talking about how it meant everything was normal. Now it's canceled.
But it's because of a snowstorm. It's been snowing here.
Yeah. I do feel bad for her because it's a gorgeous day out right now. It did snow earlier today.
You know what? To tie it into armpits.
Okay.
I often think about how I personally, not that I don't wear deodorant in the winter, but I actually love that I don't really need to. In the summer, I have to, like, because I'll sweat a lot and I will just be like feeling gross. But I was going to complain about winter, but there's something nice about the summer, obviously being able to like have your armpits out. But I feel like in the winter, I don't need to think about them as much.
That is true.
Way?
Are you kidding? In the summer, I have to very consciously think about what I'm wearing because it looks like a baby vomited in my armpit.
You are a pit stain kid.
I am a sweater. I am
never...
a sweater weather every day for me.
Like, definitely I sweat, but I mostly sweat from my temples and the face. And I feel like obviously every now and then I do if I'm really sweaty, so for my pits. But for you, sometimes I'm like, you aren't allowed to wear my clothes because they will be stained.
I can wear your dark clothes.
But even then, I'm like, I can tell.
Okay, so let's talk about the glands. The eccrine glands. Those are the glands that secrete the liquid sweat from your body, integral to the evaporation of that sweat to cool your body down. Very important evolutionary trait. Whereas the apocrine glands, which are in your armpit and in other parts of your body, they secrete the liquid that the bacteria then kind of interacts with and smells. Yum. So like, it's not when people say, oh, I'm sweating, I smell bad. It's actually two separate glands secreting two separate liquids. So
which kind of makes sense in a way because when you sweat on your face or your arms, it's not like those parts of you get that smelly.
Yeah, like
those glands aren't there.
Don't consider myself necessarily smelly sweater. But my God, the eccrine glands on me are going ham. The liquid is coming.
Eccrine.
ECCRIN.
Okay.
E. Eccrine.
Yeah, armpits are interesting, and I didn't fully. I mean, it makes sense, but those I cannot say these words. Apocrine glands. Apocrine.
Yeah. Apocrine glands.
I keep wanting to say apricot.
Secrete the smelly stuff.
And it's like you don't develop those until puberty.
Yeah, I thought that was so interesting
kids
too.
Aren't like it's not like kids can't be smelly. They obviously can, but they're not. They're not
can't.
Like. I mean, kids can be smelly. Trust me.
Sorry,
but not
BO, not body
way.
odor.
Yeah,
and also it's weird because when you develop eccrine glands, the ones that evaporate the sweat off of you,
like cooling
when you're really, really young, like that's not it's weird that there's like two separate glands and that one appears, or not appears, but like essentially like matures after puberty. It's really weird because it's like puberty is so linked to that, like, oh, you smell thing. Like, I feel like it's because you're like, well, wait, what? I've only had eccrine glands.
And people are, it's true. It's so sad that at that stage when you're going through puberty where everyone is for the first time and people start to smell and they don't yet know how to deal with it because
they didn't know their apocrine gland just busted out.
And they didn't know, like, they haven't had to think about deodorant ever before. So suddenly, like, the first kid in school goes through puberty and smells, and everyone's like, it's like such a bullying moment. You know what I mean?
Such a loss of innocence.
Yeah.
It's so sad. Puberty is so depressing. Like, everything about it, like, when I remember it, is just like you having to contemplate like your evolution. Although I do remember being like, yay, sex.
Yeah, I think like it's not fully sad.
No,
it's not. Kind of fun in that way.
Because you're like, I can have sex.
But
like you can't
really.
But like age. You're like, it's gonna maybe happen at some point.
It's like when you can start like masturbating.
No, it is really sad because then you like want to have sex, but you truly can't because you're too young.
Like some people do, but
no, sorry, some people do, but like I became like so horny.
Yeah,
because it was like, and it was kind of sad horny.
Yeah, because you're like it's not like you're being oppressed or repressed, but you have no outlet for it, and you don't really understand it yet.
Yeah, and you're shamed for it, especially if you're G-U-H, gay. Yeah, it's very depressing. Puberty's fully depressing for me. It was like, oh, now I can masturbate. Oh, I'm thinking of Tom DeLonge from Blink-182 and I just blew a hole in my shower. Oh my God, I'm gay. I'm so sad. My life would be so much easier if it was Julia Roberts that made me blow a hole in my shower.
Oh my God, Julia Roberts. Was she a heartthrob for young people though, or was she generationally different? Like
yeah, she was a heartthrob. She was so hot when she was young.
For our generation, you think?
Yeah,
like,
90s.
You think that like young boys our age were like getting off to her? Because I don't have any reference to that because I was gay.
Yeah, no,
so
like
I was like, who were like the boys I was
true.
lusting after at that age?
Mine was Tom DeLonge.
Mine was like Jonathan Taylor Thomas.
Oh my God,
I mean?
He's basic. I'm kidding. I loved him. I loved him.
All I had was the media, Greg. I didn't know any better.
The Zac Efron of then. I love how our side note is now turned. We were like, armpits are horny. We're going to talk about how horny we were as kids. Jonathan Taylor, JTT for short, was so, yeah, I was so into him.
But my ultimate, which was around this time too, maybe a little bit later, is, what's his name? Billy Elliot. Jamie Bell, who plays Billy Elliot. That was the love of my life growing up.
And he had that was like a queer adjacent movie.
Yeah.
It was like, and then he even kisses a boy.
Yeah, and out of like love though, out of like friendship love, which is even more beautiful to have like a straight ally who's like so comfortable with himself. Yeah. Oh my God, that movie is so good.
Yeah.
Oh, should we go back to armpits?
Yeah.
Okay. Can I talk about why they smell?
Yeah.
So obviously it has to do with those glands, the apocrine glands. But there's actually new research that only came out in the past couple of years when now they understand exactly why it smells.
Oh.
So it's not to do with the human, as you mentioned. It's like to do with the bacteria that are breaking it down.
Yeah.
But they're releasing something called thioalcohols, which I think has been known. But what they recently found out is that it's a particular enzyme from a particular microbe that's doing it. So not all microbes can make these thioalcohols, but it's called Staphylococcus hominis is one of the most major contributors. And the way they knew this is they've taken other microbes and taken genetic sequences from the stinky microbe, put them in the non-stinky one, and then those ones started making like smelly byproducts.
So they were like, they just did that a bunch of times till finally they were like, that's the one making the stink.
I think it's like there's a specific, I'm not going to name it because it's like I guess I am naming it, 3-3-SH is an odorless compound that is then released by the apocrine glands, and that is what the bacteria
The hominis.
The Staphylococcus hominis.
Produces the odor from consuming that liquid from our glands.
Yeah, say that again. What?
The staph bacteria hominis produces the odor by consuming that
the
weird
parts from the apocrine gland.
The cyst gland.
And a lot of the other bacteria aren't doing that. And this study was like, perhaps it can help with focused deodorant that can target that bacteria because they don't need to like necessarily impact the other bacteria that are there feasting because they're not releasing like stinky smells.
That is really interesting because it's like the smell can be a problem, I guess, socially. But there's really not many reasons why we should like kill off an antibacterial, like use antibacterial to stop a smell in our pits.
Oh, true, but it maybe wouldn't have to kill it. Like it could find another pathway to deal with those chemical compounds or those enzymes. But you're right, that could just cause a slew of other problems if you get rid of a bacteria that's like naturally occurring.
And like I feel like I know when I have body odor.
But everyone says like it's hard for you to know. You're not the first one to know. You know what I mean?
And I guess it's like when I am the first one to know, or when I do know, it's like that's bad. It's
yeah, because then you're like somebody else has
yeah.
probably noticed this. But yeah, I feel like I do get body odor for sure, but not that easily. But maybe because I'm like always kind of aware of it. So if I feel like I'm getting it, I like shower.
Well, one thing I wanted to mention that I found anecdotally true, and I found a study that backed it up, was that when you are stressed, you do secrete more sweat and more liquid from the apocrine glands. So like I've definitely felt like at the end of the day, whenever I've
if you've had a stressful
if I've had something stressful happen,
so true.
then I haven't put on deodorant, I'm like, Oh my God. More than if I like went on a run.
Yeah, it's actually so interesting that you say that. I think that's more likely to happen to me because I feel like if I go for a run
You're more
or
aware.
work out at the gym,
Yeah.
I don't think I smell that bad.
Or
after.
you probably shower after.
That's true.
You don't like have a stressful situation. You're like, I got to shower.
That's true. You spend the whole day being like anxious or stressed, if you're me. And then, yeah, that makes sense that it would like produce more of a smell.
It's kind of interesting and like worth knowing. It's like you'll shower after the gym. You'll shower after a run. If you have a specific, someone spooks ya, someone comes up on you, boo, there's a real good spook
It's
on
like
ya.
when dogs release that smell from their anal
Yeah,
glands.
like literally think of it like that. Or it's like, say you like get a really stressful email or like you get in trouble or like something happened recently where I felt like I was in trouble. I forgot what it was, but it's like, that is when you should probably also shower.
I guess. But it is interesting. So part of the research I was looking into found they were trying to figure out like when did this like there's a specific gene in molecules that trigger these that like deal with these chemicals and stuff, and I guess they were trying to decipher like how long has this been in human history, and they were like it has been for a long time. So definitely like early humans smell really bad.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because like obviously they could be in water or wash themselves, but they weren't like bathing all the time.
Yeah.
They were like, because okay, this is the part that blew my mind and I did not know.
Okay.
Maybe you knew from your research.
Okay.
So basically there's like this gene called ABCC11 that determines the odor. So people who have this have smelly body odor.
Okay.
80 to 95% of East Asian people have a non-functional version of this gene. 80 to 95% of East Asian people do not have body odor.
Oh my God.
Isn't that unbelievable?
Wow.
I
East
didn't
Asian
know-
people?
East Asian, yeah.
Wow.
And so it's also people when they have that gene variant have dry earwax versus wet earwax,
Do you think that
which is
they
like crumbly versus like smudgy.
can you reach out and let me know if like in East Asia there's like not a deodorant industry?
I was looking it up. It's not that there isn't. Obviously, there's still
because
potentially
deodorant
20
is like still make you just smell nice.
Yeah, and even 20% potentially of the population is still
Is
gonna,
enough.
like smell, but I think it is not the same. I read anecdotally while I was like sifting through the internet that historically, if you had body odor in Japan, you wouldn't have to join the army.
Oh my God.
But it was like a small enough population. This is anecdotal. I read it on Reddit.
Wow, to Reddit on Reddit, that's very anecdotal. It's so funny, like probably East Asian people think we smell like shit.
Yeah.
Like they're probably like, ew, here comes a fucking white person and their goddamn body odor.
There are, it said, I think like maybe 0.3 to like 1% of other populations can, but interestingly, so specifically East Asia.
Wow, like if we ever go back
there are,
to like
like-
China or like Japan, I'm definitely bringing deodorant because it's like holy shit, it's probably so much more offensive to them, like the smell.
Or they probably don't know what it is. No, that sounds weird.
No,
I'm
they
sure
definitely do. They're like,
smelly
there's
people.
a stinky ass white guy in his stupid backpack and he's sweating as he hikes up this stupid hill because he's out of shape.
That's so fascinating though. Like it's interesting because it's not something that would ever come up.
No.
Even with our like East Asian friends, I'm
No.
not going to be like, oh, they never smell. Because I
Yeah.
feel like we obviously living in like a Western society and like we
No,
are
not that
privileged
many
enough
of our
to
friends like smell. Like I actually haven't smelt body odor on
Yeah.
someone in a long time.
That's true. Especially when you're getting together, people often like clean out
Yeah.
before they're going to hang out.
I gave Mitch hand-me-down cologne. Now he's a cologne guy.
I have never worn cologne in my life except Axe body spray when I was younger, and I will shamefully admit it lasted a long time. There's only one flavor, if you will, that I loved called Kilo.
Mitch, and he has,
they
I will not
discontinued it.
exaggerate, 20 cans of it in his drawer because didn't
So-
someone get it for you from America or
So
something?
no, here's what happened.
He was obsessed with Axe.
I don't love the spray, but I do like the smell of it. But I feel like I'm
spray is
breathing
also bad for the
chemicals.
environment.
Yeah, but I love the deodorant of that smell.
But you have the spray.
because they discontinued you can get the spray.
So, but when did
my
you buy
mom
20?
every Christmas?
Your
No,
mom.
I got my brother-in-law to go when he was in the States to bring me back like 20 bars of it.
Okay.
Of the actual deodorant.
Mitch,
Every
the-
year, my mom like thinks I love this. Like I did, but every year, like my stocking, I'll get like Kilo Axe body spray.
Oh, and
tell her to
it's
stop.
it's literally just like conglomerated.
Yeah,
over
every
the
year I'm
years.
like, oh, here's another one.
Oh my god, you have to tell her.
No, because you know when you don't want to like break someone's heart that they've been buying something for you for like.
Okay,
so
well,
long.
I will say there's a large proportion of this home that is devoted in a drawer to like I open it and I'm like, oh my god, like
My drawer?
It's literally
Of
like
Axe
if
body-
someone came over, they'd be like, so you're dating a straight guy? I'm like, oh yeah, this is the Axe body
I've
spray
never
drawer.
thought of it. I should
There's
just-
so many. There's 20, I think.
Because
Like,
you know, every now and then, I don't do it now because Greg gave me a cologne. So back to that, I've never bought a cologne before, and I've always just used like deodorant. But so I would keep them because I did every now and then I might like lightly spray myself.
I
Like,
actually, when I haven't had deodorant, I've gone into that drawer and done a little puff of Kilo on the pit.
because Kilo honestly Axe, every other Axe I find actually smells bad, but that one weirdly it's like more sweet. It's kind of similar to the one you gave me.
I love the way you were about
No,
to like go.
I-
You see the
No, no, no,
sense
no,
of the
okay.
Axe Kilo.
No, no.
It's this
You-
sweet sort of effervescent feel on the
You
tongue.
have to listen. If anyone out there has experience with Kilo, you need to let me know. I think it's called like Lynx in other countries. Maybe I've looked into it because I've tried to buy it from other countries.
Wow.
But so many people would comment that I smell well. Good.
You smell well.
You smell so well. We should say that. But I noticed that
Wow.
people always make fun of Axe, and I always kind of joan along to be
Yeah.
like, yeah, teenagers just like don't know how to
And
wear
it's
deodorant.
a horrible marketing scheme. It's just like
Yeah.
male, weird, like
kind of
toxic
dominance or whatever.
masculinity. Yeah.
I'm sure. I'd be curious what Axe marketing is like now. I bet they've tried. To
Oh, they're
adapt it.
definitely like, oh, look, a drag queen. And like, you know what I mean?
That's such funny and good marketing advice for Axe. To be
Yeah.
like, it's like this like man takes off his whole thing. It's like, oh, I stink, and like has to like spray himself.
I do feel like it is Unilever, like this big company
Yeah,
that like
that
I
does,
wouldn't
like,
be
Dove.
surprised if they actually really do try and differentiate between men and women because it's like how their market works.
That's true, and I guess. we
But
live
during
in a
they
bit
definitely
of
have a pride float. Like Axe
like,
for sure has a
Axe,
pride
and
float.
there's like a pink one or something.
Yeah, like they're willing to get the gays in, but I don't think they're alienating like the men who like
That's
need.
true. There is still so much
Some
like,
men
toxic masculinity.
Truly are so funny and simple that they need like they need the packaging to be black and like
be like,
green and
"Grr,"
like
like-
have Monster Energy drink energy, and it's so
it does
sad.
have Monster Energy
Yeah.
drink energy.
It's really sad. Like it's like funny, but like sometimes like when I like hang out with straight people, I'm like it's so sad that you need that. Not all, but some.
Not all.
And some do.
I'm sure you could say the same to any group. Like even gay men probably like fall into weird categories where they love things that someone from the
Yeah.
outside would be like, you just flash a thing in front of a gay guy and there you get him. You know what I mean?
Honestly, also it's like gay men are so jacked and look like football players and are so obsessed with toxic masculinity that Axe body spray is missing out if they don't have a pride float. Like
Yeah.
so many muscle circuit gays would love
Or,
to
like,
put on
mask,
Kilo.
mask,
yeah, for sure. They'd be like probably bring it to the bar and be like on their pits. No one's ever said I smell good in my goddamn life, and I put
Really?
on cologne.
Well, people only say it when I wear Kilo.
I know when you said that, I got really jealous. I don't think people have said I smell bad except for my farts. Different episode. We've already had that episode. But definitely, like, I put on cologne and it's like,
Well, I think
no one tells me it's all
because I
good.
think we're part of like a group of friends that are also all smelling good, and it's just become like normal.
our friends are really freaking cool. We
I don't
all
mean that, but like
smell
all of
good.
our like closest friends, I feel like wear like they all have a scent.
Yeah.
And they've probably smelt you that same scent for a long time, so it's not like, yeah, you do smell good, but I don't tell them they smell good every time I see them.
And more than one of them, Chanel Bleu. And I must say, one thing I do is make sure I don't have the scent of someone else. I'm gonna tell you that. That's a drag if you're listening.
That is a drag.
And also, it's like Chanel Bleu. Like, I don't know why I say it. It's like French and probably have gorgeous, like bleu, but Chanel Bleu. So, one thing I looked into was about cortisol concentrations in sweat after you've been stressed. So, like,
Okay.
obviously, like, as I was saying, you sweat more when you're stressed, but they found that there's more cortisol secretions in your saliva and in your sweat after being stressed. And then the reason of the study was like, maybe we can like measure how baseline stressed people are from their sweat and saliva in order to like treat them better.
Oh my gosh. So not necessarily having to just rely on self-reports, but
Yeah.
actually being able to chemically like swab
Be like-
someone and be like, this person could be like chronically stressed without realizing it.
Yeah.
That is cool.
And also when it comes to smelling good, Chanel Bleu, if you will, there was a study where they essentially got men, it was men on men, It was male on male.
Wow, rare in a study.
I know. I thought it was interesting.
Well, I
too.
guess unless it's like a study about
gay
people.
men. When they were like, oh, gay guys have like food poisoning way more than everyone else. They're like, oh, it's from eating ass. Remember that study? I never, ever go anywhere without telling people about that study. It's crazy.
Well, yeah, I found out that gay men also have like a 13, I don't know the number. It's like 13 times more likely chance of getting throat cancer because of sucking dick and getting gonorrhea and not knowing.
I was saying this to my friends the other night at our party, and I'm like, this isn't a fully formed thought and I shouldn't say it, but it's like, maybe being gay is bad.
Oh my God.
It's not.
But
it is not bad. But it's like,
joke.
I do kind of want to figure out how to make a joke about that. Being like, so you get increased throat cancer because you suck so much dick. You get food poisoning a lot because you eat a bunch of assholes. Okay, whoa, we're moving on. But
actually, to be clear, it was not because of gonorrhea. It was because of HPV is what is causing those higher rates of throat cancer in gay men.
And we're doing an STD episode coming out soon.
Yes.
So subscribe. Tell your friends to subscribe. If you enjoy the pod, it would really help us. Ding. So they had men.
Because they all have STDs and we know it. STIs.
Yeah. Men were asked to divvy money up between two men, and they made one of the men smell good and one of the men smell bad. And they would really essentially like give more money to the people who smelled good. And their extrapolation was that smelling good has to do with trustworthiness and like kinship, and is kind of just like actually maybe something that we value more than we realize.
Like subconsciously.
Yeah. And we're more, this was designed the study to think about trustworthiness.
Okay.
So I was kind of thinking like, I don't feel like it matters if you have body odor that much, but I do think it's interesting that there's a lot of these studies about like bias and like
how that could
kinship.
Yeah,
and
I mean, there's stuff like that even for facial hair or length of your actual hair, like or wearing glasses or wearing a lab coat. Like they've often found weird correlations that could be rooted in some evolutionary response or could be completely a social construct, right? Like it's hard to know.
It has to be a social construct. Don't you
Well,
think?
I think the smell one could be different in that like someone who smells could be ill. Right? Like, if like in terms of, you know how like when people look hungover or tired, they look worse, and it's almost like potentially an evolutionary response to know who's unwell.
Yeah.
So like, I'm not saying this is the case for smell, but like if somebody was like had a major injury that was infected, like it would probably smell, and that would be a signifier, much like other dangerous things in this world or like feces or whatever. It's like not to go near that.
Yeah.
But you're right, it could be completely, I feel like gorillas probably smell really bad. I think I've heard that they smell so bad. Like lots of other monkeys and apes, I'm sure, don't smell great. I don't think it's like stopping them from existing. And humans, surely 200 years ago, smell so bad.
Exactly. So I feel like the way evolution works, it can't just like switch that fast. That to me, it feels very cultural, and social. And it is really funny because it's like, I guess it's almost like a super normal stimulus. It's like, of course, we're now more attracted to these amazing scents that we can be because we've like literally bottled it up in eau de toilette and sprayed it on us.
Need to ask my friend Erica, who won Survivor. I'm so curious.
Name drop!
I know people end up smelling on that show, but then they're always hugging each other and stuff. And I wonder if it's just, you just get used to it.
Well, there's stress happening on that show.
Yeah.
Well, they are going in the water a lot.
I know, which you would think like early humans would have done. It's almost like the medieval ages is the worst, where they wouldn't have been near water. Like they all probably smelled so bad. They like, I just feel like that time of period was,
and they
like,
were
gross.
all like eating like bread and like, I don't know. It was just like not
You turned on
good.
bread so fast.
Yeah, I don't know. Just like
I love bread.
But when I see a meal from that, like when we were in Scotland and we went in the castle and they showed like the meal, it was like, actually it kind of looked like just what I eat, like porridge. Now that I'm thinking about it, I was like,
you're realizing it was your diet.
That was my actual
your
culture.
upbringing.
It's just that I'm Scottish. Okay,
Gruel.
Totally turning my back on everything I just said. I love olden days food. Okay, another thing that I learned, another study I found was really cool. This one was like from last week, but they were talking about material. I didn't realize that there's like antimicrobial coating that they'll put on like, for the most part, they were talking about like plastics and metals and like.
Isn't is it copper that's antimicrobial?
Well, this was a silver.
Naturally, okay.
This was like a silver ion in this example.
Yeah, but I know that there's like certain tubing and stuff or pipes that get made out of certain. Kinds of metal
Okay. I
because
didn't know that. I thought like that was rare. They said
While you're talking
they
about
said it was like very common in rigid materials, and it works really well on plastics and metals and things like that. But what they did recently was not using. Did you figure it out?
Yeah, it says it is.
Yeah. So I think the reason this one was about silver is because what they figured out is they're like, it's really hard to create antimicrobial coating on fabric. And so what they used were plant polyphenols and antimicrobial silver ions. And they created this like thin sort of like colorless, that's like easily created, like thin. You can't even really notice it. Fabric that would go on top of fabric, and it would essentially inhibit lipid and enveloped viruses and bacteria and fungi from developing on it. And so they were just saying like you could technically put this on clothes, and the clothes wouldn't necessarily pick up the bacteria that are eating the sweat to make the smell. They're just
But
like
that kind of goes back to what we talked about earlier,
like
where it's
why?
like it's actually it's only one microbe in particular, and B, how we were like, do you really know what you're wanting to get rid of here, right? Like,
it was weird because they were kind of talking about why it would be important to have a fabric that was antiviral. Like, and I was like, why
I feel
is
like
that?
I've seen that even like sometimes socks are advertised, and I don't know if it's
Wait,
bamboo,
what?
but sometimes it'll be like antimicrobial. It'll be like bamboo, naturally I don't know if it actually is bamboo, but I feel like I've seen like clothing, and maybe that's because if you're like hiking and your feet are going to be gross for like a long period of time and sweaty, maybe people think it's like more hygienic. If I don't know.
Also,
I
like I guess like maybe this is great for like gloves in a hospital or like
totally,
like,
yeah.
I'm just trying to be like, what is the
What's
purpose
the
of this?
functional purpose?
Because they started to talk about armpits and like smells and clothing, and to me I was like, whoa, that's like some pretty intense like literal physics they were doing to make like
for what purpose?
for what purpose? But then I was like, oh, okay, I guess if they realize it's so important for plastics and metals, there must be some fabrics I don't understand.
That totally makes sense. Like plastics too in a hospital, to know that they're potentially like not cross-contaminating.
Yeah, but I think that's what they said that is common and really easy to do.
That's cool.
Yeah, because there's something about fabric for whatever reason, the like durability of the material is really hard to make it antimicrobial.
So that's cool.
So it's like silver ions and like polyphenols from plants, and they were able to do it.
Nice.
It was cool. It was like actually a really cool study, and the way that they showed the bacteria like sloughing off from the ions, it was like, man,
You can see it?
Well, no, the diagram. Like the diagram, I'm just like nature.
They were just like,
It's like everything is just a gorgeously depicted 3D diagram. And I'm like, I assume you're explaining it to me well, but it's like, yeah, there's not a photo of it happening. But it was just like, nature is so cool. And actually, these people are so smart. So many people are like publishing papers about the randomest, insane lasers and stuff that aren't actually applicable to anything yet. But they're
just like
they're
at the
just
forefront.
and I'm just like, what an incredible motivation you have to do something that is like not tangible right now, but is so complicated.
You can see like where it's going to bring future science to or something. Yeah, that's always unbelievable to me, is like the people who are in those fields who it's like they're fields that help other fields get the glory.
Yeah.
Like designing lenses for microscopes or telescopes. Like that's kind of a hidden, like it's the person who uses the telescope to discover this thing that's seen. And maybe that's not true, but in my perspective of like who I hear gets celebrated as scientists, it's like not the technical side of it.
But that's why scientists are such amazing people, because they're not,
that there are people out there.
Many
like
of them
so
aren't in it
fascinated
for the
by
glory.
Yeah, they're just so interested.
In fact,
in
when
the science.
you know a scientist's name, it's like, okay, red flag. like it's like we love the ones that aren't in it for the glory.
True.
No, I'm kidding. That's not
But
true.
like some of them, it can be red flags. But whenever we like,
also, it's like who knows a scientist's name? Like honestly, like
well,
who
it's
am I
only red
kidding?
flag because there's like, most of the scientists we all can probably name are like historical, like
Or like Dr. Phil. Actually, no, he's just a doctor. Never mind. That's not a scientist. That doesn't even count.
No,
Sorry.
we could find scientists of like famous old scientists who did stuff. But nowadays, we would, when we go to those breakthrough events, those would be like the scientists that I would like learn their names.
Yeah.
Obviously, forgetting a lot of them now, but it was so cool to know that these people, were being rewarded with like a lot of money for their discoveries, but were people who were just so smart and fascinated in their field. I don't know.
And they had breakthroughs that were like changed the world. But that's literally my point. Like, those are the most famous living scientists. Essentially, this was like a breakthrough prize, which was America and Silicon Valley trying to create their own Nobel Prize. No, we're not going to drag it, but like I'm like, okay, good luck. But
It's just a little bit like Facebook.
yeah,
but
it was like Zuck was
seeing the
always there.
scientists were like really
Amazing,
awesome.
and they got a lot of money, and it was like Silicon Valley like doing quote unquote charity, I guess. But like the Nobel Prize of America is what it was, and these people were so smart, and we had to study their names to know who they were. Like it's like culture is so weird about science. Like for some reason, I know like everyone in Euphoria's name. Like I just like, and I like, it's about entertainment and the way you consume. But I've always found it a little disheartening the way that we all care so much about acting, which is like an absurd.
It's just so much more in your face as a thing. But so on the one hand, it makes sense to me because scientists are behind the scenes in labs. Like you don't ever really interact with a scientist. You interact with the thing that they potentially make or create or discover. Whereas like the whole point of entertainment is to be interacting with you constantly.
Yeah.
So obviously it affects you so much more emotionally.
Yeah. It's true, but
it's unfortunate.
But I think
same
about
way
like
that,
the books I read. Like I spend a lot of time with scientists, and it's just they're not like.
But if you read the book of someone who wasn't a scientist, you'd probably be equally as attached to them.
Yeah, that's
as
true.
You would to a science. Like if I read like George R.R. Martin, like obviously that's not a great example because he became so famous and the series.
But still, it's not like you care that much about him.
Yeah, I'm not like obsessed with him, and I'm only interested in him because he kind of chose to become a bit of a public figure.
Yeah.
But so many authors I read, like I'm equally as connected to the science ones as the fantasy ones. But I will say sometimes the fantasy ones can really connect to your heart. Well, not fantasy, but just fiction.
Yeah. What I'm thinking now is it has more to do with science is innately really complicated. Like the stuff that a scientist is doing is usually so specific and tunnel vision to some really complicated,
like specialized
thing that in order to be let into that world, you do have to spend almost time with like the written word, which is never going to be as interesting as what we now consume, which are quick and fast.
Yeah.
It's like Euphoria is like the longest thing I watch. You know what I mean? Like it's all becoming, you just can't essentially be a scientist and be entertaining in a short period of time.
Yeah.
Is that valid? Like there's something there though. It's like, why are we so fascinated with these people who don't do things that interesting? It's because we're consuming their visual mediums often.
It's just, but entertainment is the thing. You could find lots of other fields where people don't appreciate it as much as entertainment. Like anything. Like teachers, even like firefighters. Like, people appreciate these different things.
People appreciate a firefighter on TV being played by an actor who's never firefighted.
But it's not like we walk around society like being like, we love firefighters. Even though it's like we should more than like Leonardo DiCaprio.
I'm just like, it is a flaw in our humanity. It's like, acting is so weird. I'm like, it is so funny that we're like, we love Leonardo DiCaprio because he like, they press play and he like pretends to be like a banker. Like he's like, I'm a banker. And it's like, oh my God, he was a banker. Wow.
Such a part of the human condition. It's so interesting.
It has to be.
Because even, sports stars are also people fall in love with and are obsessed with and follow their lives.
If you're using Axe Kilo, you love sports stars.
But I'm just thinking like, there's something about human nature that it is such a part of our DNA to like be socially bound to each other and be obsessed with like these people and who they are and what they do and like everything. I don't know. I'm just like, obviously we talk about all these evolutionary things where it's like, of course we are designed in certain ways. It makes sense functionally that we eat and breathe air and all these things are to do. But it's like, it kind of reminds me of dancing where it's like, we don't exactly know why like dancing's so embedded, but obviously dancing and music are so embedded in human beings.
But then it's like, it's so interesting because it's like, we need to get scientists or these armpit study scientists to do some controversial like human nature things. Like how do we get them to be a part of that narrative? Because like we could.
That's true. Like what? Yeah, they just aren't.
We need more scientists to like cheat on each other publicly.
Like have a little like drama. Yeah.
I don't know. Like TMZ.
Or just needs to be more entertainment about scientists.
Yeah, that's fair. That's like something that we try and do. That's true. Yeah. I like music and dancing, like the book that I'm reading about consciousness. It's like people are famous scientists who we should get on a debate on NBC really argue a lot about music and whether it's like something that has been evolved or is purely just like a made up, like
Just
no
like
one agrees.
random chance.
There's not an overall
consensus,
which I kind of just assumed it was like
has to come from some evolutionary advantage.
Same with dancing, because like we've made videos about it and like
Yeah.
how it does show off your agility and like, but it's not a consensus in any way.
Right.
And there's like really interesting ways that evolutionary biologists have proven like, it's
so-
fully cultural and random and weird.
It's so cool and sad and awesome and everything that we like can't know that. We just like
Yeah.
live in this bubble of like understanding of like 100 to 200 years, maybe like, and then it's a gradient where like, and I mean like in the future we have no idea what's gonna happen. In the past we have no idea what's gonna happen, and we just like it gets less and less clear, and we kind of have this idea that we can figure out everything. But sometimes I wonder if people in 7,000 years, if humans are still here, will ever really be able to understand us because they're so far away.
Yeah,
from us.
exactly. It's like when we're like, oh, those olden day people ate bread and smelled like shit. And they'd probably be like, that is so minimal to my human life.
And would they be able to figure out the like how evolution led us to do certain things, or is
Yeah.
it just too vague? I mean, now
It's too
we're
vague.
recording information, but I just am like, future human
Oh
species
my
might
God,
not
and-
use anything we use to communicate.
if you're in 2070 right now, randomly listening to this podcast.
2070, I said 7,000.
Oh, sorry. If you're in 7020 right now, randomly listening to this podcast you found on this random
9,020.
planet. Oh, 9,000. Oh, shit. I didn't add ours. Oh, my God. And you heard that little guffaw in what we like to call math. Imagine they were like, remember that pitiful math they made up? I always think about aliens coming and being like, wow, you went down a weird rabbit
Just
hole with that
made all
math.
that up.
Language of the universe, my ass.
That's so funny.
But yeah, I just want to say that birds actually do dance for evolutionary reasons.
Exactly.
Humans, we're not so sure. Okay,
I
like
feel like the only last thing I wanted to say, deodorants, because I've always been spooked by aluminum in deodorants. I just want to say, so studies have shown that deodorants do impact your microbiome population in your armpits.
Yeah,
But
okay.
it is still a heavy debate with what is said to be not enough evidence that aluminum, like regular not regular, but you know what I mean, like regular versus natural deodorant,
Yeah.
has any significant effect on your body.
Ah.
And that, as I did the research on this, like, yes, it's still debated. Yes, there are some studies that show aluminum exposure can lead to Alzheimer's and cancers and things like that. That's true, but then people don't, like, there's no real hard evidence that from deodorant it's causing an accumulation of aluminum. Anyway, all that to just say,
That's interesting.
The consensus seems to be right now it's safe, and it's really about like something that does, because a lot of different kinds of deodorants can irritate people or have too much scent and bother your nose and those sort of things. So as long as you like your deodorant, it doesn't bother you, makes you smell the way you like, then
and I'm sure there's ethical reasons too.
oh sure, that's a totally different conversation.
Yeah.
This is about whether it's unhealthy for you.
That's
Wear
interesting.
deodorant. And so I thought it was interesting that it objectively does change your microbiome populations.
So it's the aluminum that's
The aluminum was
thing
the
that
fear.
people
So
were talking
when you
about.
see antiperspirant, like I stopped buying deodorant that says antiperspirant because I was afraid of that. I was like, I don't want to be like,
But because of the aluminum? Did you
because
know
the aluminum,
that?
because it blocks your
wow.
glands allegedly, and that
Yeah.
makes you sweat less.
I always was just like, I don't really get it, and just used antiperspirant. Like I just never cared.
Oh, I wore that for so long,
Yeah.
but now I buy deodorant.
Oh.
But I did try. Yeah, I choose, like most big brands too will have a deodorant and an antiperspirant.
but you're
that-
saying there's not an obvious.
yes. So like
Like-
most major organizations in terms of like consumer protections in both Europe and North America deem it safe.
Okay.
That doesn't mean it will be forever considered
Yeah.
that, but there's not enough hard evidence to show that like small amounts of exposure on your armpits are causing cancer, for example.
Yeah, it's like, no, it does smoking. Like,
Yeah,
it's like-
exactly. Yeah.
It's like we sometimes smoke a joint, and that is way worse probably than putting
Than
on
putting on-
deodorant for like
yeah.
a year.
Yeah. That's all I want to say.
Yeah. Well, I love armpits.
Yeah, I'm so on armpits. Like, so I think they're attractive and nice, but I don't want to like lick an armpit that much.
No, but like I do though, like if it's like so hot, if the situation
Yeah, I
is
guess,
so hot.
yeah.
It's like what we talked about with the fetish episode where like it's a sign of like how into something you are.
True.
When you push boundaries and like lick someone everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Like, but yeah, you're right. Like it's like it's like a good sign that if I'm not into a situation, if I'm not wanting to lick the armpit. And I bet that's maybe part of the reason why it's in any way considered like attractive. It's also so weird that like the patriarchy is like women have to shave them.
Oh, that's so weird. I was thinking about that watching Survivor the other day. Because I think they sometimes give the women razors.
Like razors? That's so
because
weird.
they're like, people don't want to see a woman with armpit hair on the show.
But also the women have the autonomy. They also probably don't feel comfortable because it's like, you know what I mean? It's a bit of both. Like you can't just say it's like women also probably like, can I have razors? Because this whole fucking society
I don't
fucked me.
know for sure like this situation on Survivor anymore, but I feel like
they definitely have razors because I've never noticed like their hair would grow.
Yeah.
Also, it's so hot
does,
when a
though.
girl has armpit hair. Like,
yeah.
to me, I always
It's just so
clock it
fascinating.
and I'm like, confident ass girl.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, that's hot.
And it's just like that's so natural and nice. Like boys do. It's just so weird that it would be so different.
Men are so weird. I feel like they're scared of confidence.
But why are they scared of hair if it's like natural? It's just I get that it's like, you know, social constructs change.
Oh,
And
God.
I'm sure at some point it was like considered very attractive, and hopefully again in the future it will be considered very attractive.
I think
but-
men's brains are truly broken. You're listening to Side Note. You've gotten this far. Love all the straight men who've listened. There's just a lot. We've realized through the years. The brains are broken. Like the whole concept is like the like infanticide of women. Like the like shave the like goddamn
Right,
like
yeah.
all of it. It's just really weird. It's in the gay community too. I think that's why I can like relate to it more. It's like I literally have full bush McGee because I'm like, it's so weird if you want this thing shaved. What you want, like that is so weird. Like clock that. You're weird for wanting to shave your woman or wanting your woman shaved. Like it is.
Yeah,
it
what
is
you-
weird.
to like kind of I don't know.
Yeah.
It is
Imagine I had any
But then I'm trying to
stake in
think
your
of it
body
like
hair.
in the fetish space and being like sex positive. Obviously, like if it's consensual and both people do it, it's just like trying to understand also like, is that a construct that is put on women? Obviously, it is in so many ways, but how can you still leave space for people who want to have their? I don't know.
You literally just have to have women in control of telling stories
that's
and
true.
culture. Like it's like men have like
Deciding what's attractive.
yeah. And if you actually think about like Hollywood or ads and like think about our lifetime, like we're old. Like if you go back to like what people were watching, even like listening to like in the 90s, it's like truly like rock music about like it's like things were so different then. And I really do think that like it is just like now women actually are like in charge of media more, and the more that happens, I think we'll just, because I do think women are definitely allowed to freaking shave their pits. It's just the weird like male power over it that's ominous.
Yeah. And when you hear men being like, "Oh, like a girl with armpit hair,"
It's
then you're
so
like, that's
gay to me. Like I'm just like, why are you so picky? Like, you know what I mean? I'm like, if you're unattracted to a girl with armpit hair, that's gay.
I don't know if it's gay.
Well, because I'm just okay. Like I get that.
It's definitely not gay.
No,
but
it's not gay, but it's like you're like, it's like, why aren't you attracted to that?
I
girl?
think it's just like reminds me of when people are like make comments about like circumcised versus uncircumcised, and it's like some people will be like, "Oh, it's gross to be uncircumcised," but it's like that's natural. That's so weird that you could think it's gross.
Yeah, sorry to go
Like,
the
that's
other
the
way. Then
way
I'm like
the
to a gay
body-
guy, I'd be like, oh, you're not that gay. You can't suck an uncut. Like there's just like there's something. No, the reason I'm saying gay is because I have had these situations with men where it's like a way of me disarming them by being like, you sound kind of gay, because like I'm attracted to girls. No, like I would never put that specific of a thing onto my attraction to a like gender. Like it's like you're becoming so picky about a way someone has to look in order to turn you on. It makes me question your sexuality, kind of.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
I feel like this is a bit of a thing you do.
yeah, I am
Like-
annoying.
like-
I'm really annoying. It's true.
No, I just
No,
it's fine. No, because I think in some ways it's powerful when you can disarm a straight man. Like you have that power, but I think you might have built up a construct that you
Yeah,
are
that's
actually
not
using to
real.
disarm
Yeah,
someone,
okay.
but it's actually like an exaggerated thing.
Okay, fair,
like
fair,
obviously
fair.
it's not gay to like want to have sex with a woman.
Well, like it's like farting. Like sometimes it'll be like, it's so nasty. Like if a girl, like I've heard a straight guy say that, I'm like, that's so weird that your
that's
sexual
not gay.
attraction to someone is so fragile that a fart will like render you now not attracted.
Yeah,
like,
that's a more
weird.
interesting thing to say. Though.
Yeah. Okay.
To be like, I didn't realize you are so fragile that a fart is what would make you attracted to someone.
Okay. Better way. of
Versus
saying
being
that.
like, you seem gay.
Yeah.
But I think because
yeah.
then you're right. It makes a straight
Yeah.
guy listen to you if you kind of are like, well, that seems gay. Because then they're like, oh shit. it is. Maybe I should be okay with my
Yeah.
girlfriend farting. And you're like,
Yeah.
yeah, that's okay. Yeah, you should be.
Yeah, like you totally should be. Like if a really hot girl farted, I'd be like, that's hot. Like it's not, you know what I mean? I'm like, it's like, that's
You
really
don't have
crazy.
to think it's hot, but you have to think it's equally the same as a man farting.
Yeah, which if a really hot man farts, like it's,
You think that's hot?
like I would never be like, oh fuck, man, it's over. I can't even look at you. I'd be like, oh my god, smelly fart, you're so hot. Do you want to make out? Like,
Okay, we need to end
yeah,
this.
we do. That was a side note and a half.
Thanks for listening, and we'll chat to y'all next week.
First.